Hello, today we're going to be talking about building major scales. Now, major scales are actually made up of different intervals. Intervals are the spaces between notes. So those are our intervals. Now, there are two main intervals that you want to know. There is the first one, which is a half step, or sometimes it is called a semitone. Now, a semitone or a half step is basically the smallest step that you can make on any instrument. The easiest way of demonstrating this is actually on the piano. So, say for example, I'm going from a C to a C sharp. That is the shortest distance between those two notes. Now, that also applies between two notes like B and C. Or between C sharp and D, or D and D sharp, or D sharp and E, or even E and F. So as you can see, this gets pretty repetitive. So half step or a semitone is the shortest distance between two notes. Now, there is one other type of interval, and this is our whole step. So our whole step, or also just known as our tone, this whole step is actually going to be a combination of two half steps. So this is a combination of two half steps. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if I'm going from a C and I want to do a whole step up, I have to do two half steps. So one up to C sharp is one half step, up to D is two half steps. So in this case, I would go from C to D, C to D. That's kind of what you associate as do, re. Now, if I did this on a different starting note, like if I started on B, my half steps would go from B to C, and then from C to C sharp. So my whole step would actually be from B up to C sharp. Do, re. But what if I started on a sharp? What if I started on F sharp here? And I needed to do a whole step. Well, I would go from F sharp down to G and then back up to G sharp. That's my two half steps. So one half step, two half steps, making a whole step. Do, re, do, re. So our whole steps, or our tone, is a combination of two half steps. So they're put together. Now, what does this mean for building a major scale? Well, building a major scale is made up of half steps and whole steps. The equation actually looks like this. So I'm going to type out here, major scale equation. And I want to make sure that we know that this is very important. So I'm going to underline this. And down below, here is our equation. We have whole, half, whole, half. You got to make a little, rhythm out of it. Whole, half, whole, half. Now, what does this mean? Okay, well, let's take all these different distances to make up our major scale. So let's start by using Chrome Music Lab. In Chrome Music Lab, you can set it up so that in your settings you have a chromatic system. And that means that it includes all the sharps, all the flats, so all the white and all the black keys if you're looking at a piano. So when I'm in here, what I have is, say I start on just any note. I'll start down here. If I have this as my very first note of the major scale, I need to now do a whole step up. So instead of just going to the next closest note, I have to go up 2, right? Because I want it to be a whole step. So I'm doing 2 half steps to get to a whole step. So from there to there. So this should sound like do, re. Perfect. Okay, let's keep going. I've done my first whole step. I need to do my second whole step now. So starting from this note, I have 2 more half steps to make a whole step. So now it should sound like do, re, mi. Excellent. We're on the right track. Next, we have a half step. Okay, so I need to actually just take 1 step up. So I'm not going to go up 2. I'm just going to go up 1. So now I should have do, re, mi, fa. Awesome. Sounds great. Now I have 3 whole steps in a row. Okay, 3 whole steps in a row. So starting here, I'm going to go up 1, 2. Then I'm going to go up another 1, 2. Then I'm going to go up 1 more. 1, 2. So that's 1 whole step, 2 whole step, 3 whole step. Okay, perfect. I should have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti now. So let's see how this sounds. Perfect. Now, I should wind up with my very last half step. I should wind up on another red note just like this, another do. If I did this correctly, so I'm going to take my half step up. Perfect. All right, so now I should have my complete major scale. Sounds like a major scale to me. Now, what if I started on a different note? Any other different note. Okay, so let's remember our equation. I have whole, whole, half. Okay, I'm going to come over here to my very first column and... Okay, so I'm starting on this note. I'm going to scroll up a little bit so that we have enough space. I need to do whole, whole, half. So I'm going to do a whole step, another whole step. Now I'm going to do a half step. Okay, so I've got whole, whole, half. And then I have my second half, whole, 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 half. Okay, so from here, I have to go whole, 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 and if I've done this correctly, my next one will also be that blue. So here's my half step. Perfect. Okay, let's hear how it sounds. Okay, sure sounds like another major scale. Now you can see this is how we build our major scales. Now this can be a little tricky when you're using a piano, because if you're going up, you're always sharpening the note, but when you're going down, you're always flattening. So say for example I was doing my C major scale from C to C. And I know that I'm starting on C, but what are all the notes that I need to have in the middle? Well, we can use the same idea using our equation. So let's start with whole, whole, half. Okay, so I'm starting on C. I need to take a whole step. So I'm going to go half step, half step. Okay, so I'm going to play C, D. I need to do another whole step from D. So D goes up and down. Okay, so I should have do, re, mi. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to have C, D, and E in my scale. Next, I have my half step. So I have my whole step, my whole step. Now I just need to take a half step to F. Okay, so I have C, D, E, F. Now I go back and I need to work on the second half of my equation. Whole, 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 half. Okay, so from F I'm going to go a whole step to G. From G another whole step to A. From A another whole step to B. And then from B, I'm just going to do a half step to C. So my scale actually is just going to be all these white notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Perfect. Okay, what if I start on a different note, though? What if I start on, let's say, B flat? Okay. B flat's a little trickier. I need to go a whole step, and a half step first. Okay, so whole step from B, I have to take 2 half steps. So 1, 2, so I end up on C. So B flat to C, that's my do re. I need to do another whole step. C, D flat, E. Okay, so I have B flat, C, D. Okay, that's my do re mi. But then I have to do a half step. So I'm going to go up to E flat. Okay, so I have do, re, mi, fa. So B flat, C, D, E flat. Okay, next I have my second half. Whole, whole, whole half. Okay, so from E flat, right, because I have B flat, C, D, E flat, I'm going to take another whole step to F, another whole step to G, my last whole step to A, and then I have to do a half step back up to B flat. So my scale is going to look and sound like this. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. Once you know your notes, you can actually write them down on a staff using our system. So if you're in treble clef, you have Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge and FACE face for the spaces. If you're in the bass clef, it's Great Big Dragons Fly Around or All Cows Eat Grass for the spaces. So we can start to write out all of these different notes and all these different scales in a major scale using our equation, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. All right. Thanks for building some major scales with me today. Have a great day.